Duran is fouled, and oh my goodness. And Musa's upset. Musa's really upset.
Visuals regarding that February 9th Pistons versus Hornets battle show Isaiah Stewart charging from the sidelines to savagely attack Miles Bridges, trapping him inside a chokehold, hurling blows and seizing his locks. 4 athletes were tossed due to this, yet violence did not cease following removals. Here we possess full specifics: the violent conflict. On February 9th, 2026, Detroit faced the Charlotte squad inside Spectrum Center within Charlotte. Detroit arrived holding 39-13, a top record within the Eastern Conference. Charlotte sat with merely 25-28, enjoying a 9-game victory run, transforming them from forgotten to must-watch television. This specific match held weight for both squads. Detroit sought to defend its standing atop the East. Charlotte desired to confirm that the run was no accident and that their squad could battle against anybody. The initial half mirrored such ferocity. Charlotte surged to a 33-29 opening period. Advantage via solid outside firing plus vigor from backcourt. Detroit responded during the second frame, reversing momentum via superior guarding plus transition work, beating Charlotte 32-24 to seize the intermission edge. Both squads played rough. Both squads were locked in and neither side was shying away from impact. However, the third period commenced, and that previously hard-fought athletic contest morphed into something truly different. With roughly 7 minutes and 9 seconds left in the third frame, Charlotte big Musa Diabate hacked Detroit big Jalen Duran down low. These pair had been warring all evening, crashing inside, jockeying for spots, equaling each other's intensity play after play. The violation itself was hardly unique. It was a typical hack involving 2 giants clashing against one another near the rim.
That's a foul. Musa fouled him.
Ooh, heads up right there, yeah. Duran with the right hand to the face started it all.
Following the call, both athletes stood nose to nose. This occurs countless times per evening around the association. 2 large guys glare one another down following a tough sequence. One speaks, one postures, and everybody walks away. Yet this instance, no one walked away. Duran headbutted Diabate, then shoved his whole palm onto Diabate's mug. Not a push to the chest or a forearm to the shoulder, but a palm squarely onto the face. That impact is what triggered everything that ensued.
And he knew it too. He's trying to get away, but these are grown men.
And then Miles went after Duran.
Diabate hunted down Duran instantly. Crew and peers dragged him away, yet he escaped loose and lunged at Duran a second round. The folks gripping him were physically overpowered by the power of his response. Meantime, Duran was stepping back, avoiding fights, not squaring off, merely fleeing from the violence he had sparked using that slap to the face indeed. And then Miles Bridges joined the scene as Diabate charged and Duran retreated. Bridges sprinted at Duran from across the court and tossed a left-handed blow, which seemed to almost land or graze Duran. Duran fired back, and that represents the moment Isaiah Stewart chose to intervene.
And then Isaiah Stewart, who wasn't in the game at all, and Miles got some blows in.
Stewart was not playing the match. He sat on sidelines. He witnessed Bridges chase his peer Duran, and he dashed right across the floor and aimed directly for Bridges. He seized Bridges inside a chokehold. He hurled several left-handed blows with some striking solid to the skull. And via nearer views, which only emerged hours later, the video revealed Stewart gripping a handful of Bridges' dreads whilst throwing those strikes. Bridges sought to battle back. He tried a double leg takedown, a grappling technique, yet could not drag Stewart down due to the mass disparity. He lashed at Stewart's torso. The pair of them were bound together, grappling, lashing, and evading until peers, refs, and stadium staff dragged them asunder. Cops were shortly seen on the floor amid the split. All 4 athletes, Jalen Duran, Isaiah Stewart, Musa Diabate, plus Miles Bridges were tossed. Later during the 4th frame, Charlotte head boss Charles Lee was tossed for debating whistles intensely, bringing further levels of bedlam to an already broken match. Detroit secured the win, however, the closing result was the least item anyone noted. The violence halted the match. It paused the telecast, and inside moments it had devoured social platforms completely. The video that altered everything. The primary telecast clip displayed the scuffle via the typical broadcast view, a broad angle which caught figures crashing, refs rushing to wedge themselves, plus athletes getting pulled away by whoever near enough to seize them. It was wild enough to spread instantly upon every social media network. ESPN's video named 4 athletes tossed blows, hurled plus benches empty amid Pistons. Hornets dust up caught the whole scene from that foul to the tosses and amassed hundreds of thousands of hits within a couple of hours. Yet the network feed had holes, giant glaring holes that the lens just could not see from its high nest. What turned this brawl from a buzzy clip into a truly global spectacle was the next flood of video. In the time past the match, raw tapes, different views, and phone recordings started popping on Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Those files plugged up every hole the network had missed, and they completely shifted the chatter regarding what had really gone down on the floor. The key grim finding from that leaked tape was the hair pull. During the live feed, Stewart's chokehold and swings were plainly seen, yet the details of his hold were not clear from the usual lens view. A tighter shot floating around social platforms showed that Stewart was gripping a handful of Bridges' dreads while basically tossing left-handed hooks. That lone fact rebuilt the whole story. It raised the clash from a sideline rush and scrap into something that seemed more planned, more focused, and more purposefully brutal. Folks were no longer simply viewing a duel. They were seeing one guy methodically lock another guy in spot by his dreads while striking him. Another view shared on Reddit with the caption, "Different view," shows Isaiah Stewart quitting the pine to rush. Bridges gave a side look that emphasized the long space Stewart ran from the sideline to hit Bridges. The video made the planned aspect of the rush clear. Stewart was not close. He was not already in the mix. He stared from the bench, took a hard choice, and dashed the whole width of the floor to launch himself into a scrap involving a partner who was already being checked on by other folks. That specific trait, the purposeful vibe of the pine rush, is what splits this event from a standard heat-of-the-moment NBA tussle where 2 guys check pecs and push one another. A third shot, also spread on Reddit, zoomed exactly on Bridges' reaction during the wrestling part. The video caught Bridges dodging a blow from Stewart and diving in for a 2-leg takedown, a grappler move, before getting crushed by the massive size difference between the pair. Crowds argued hotly about if Bridges stood tall or got wrecked, with takes dividing, almost totally relying on which view a guy had watched first and which baller they were likely to back with. House of Highlights shared TikTok vids that together stacked up millions of hits. One reel honed in on Stewart's mad dash from the seats, titled, "Isaiah Stewart ran right at Miles Bridges." Another tracked the whole tossing process, starting with the Diabate Duran hack. Fox 2 Detroit made an Instagram tape, blending crowd responses with brawl video. A YouTube Shorts post gave a quick hit summary featuring the coach, removal, and the NBA on NBC YouTube page shared its own review with analysis centering on the Diabate Duran build-up causing the 4 ejections. Each fresh shot put a fresh piece in the puzzle. The live aired the brawl. The raw clips proved the motive behind it. The hair, the blows connecting hard, the panic of both men as they aimed to harm each other while getting dragged away. And that is exactly why the video did not just spread and die. It ruled because every time folks figured they had viewed the whole story, another file surfaced, proving something they had skipped, and they had to view it again. Isaiah Stewart, the serial troublemaker. If this had been Isaiah Stewart's first on-court event, it would still have sparked national news. A guy quitting the sideline to rush at a rival, putting him in a chokehold, tossing hooks while gripping him by his braids. That is a huge tale regardless of who is named. But this was not Isaiah Stewart's first mess. It was not his second. It was not even his third. And it is that mounting record, that non-stop cycle of aggression, that shifts this from a scrap into a possibly career-shaping point and from a ban into a judgment day. The first time most hoops heads linked Stewart's name with on-court rage was November 2021, when he rushed LeBron James during a Lakers-Pistons match after a hard foul left him leaking above the brow. The photos from that night turned famous in all the bad ways. A green, quite unknown Piston big, blood running down his mug, repeatedly busting loose from partners and crew as he aimed to hit the most known basketball star on the globe. Stewart had to be held by half a dozen guys across several tries before he was lastly dragged from the floor. He got banned 2 games. In 2023, Stewart was tied during a violent clash against Minnesota's Naz Reid involving what many observers characterized as a tight stranglehold. Stewart got tossed from that contest. Later in 2024, the aggression spiked. He struck Drew Eubanks of the Phoenix squad outside the arena and earned a 3-game ban. 3 games, up from 2. League officials were already raising penalties with every single offense. Then in March 2025, just under 12 months, preceding the Bridges brawl, Stewart landed himself in the middle of a giant Pistons-Timberwolves clash that ended with 7 ejections. 7. The chaos included Stewart, partner Ron Holland II, plus Marcus Sasser, and rivals Naz Reid, plus Dante DiVincenzo, combined with coaching personnel. Sidelines emptied entirely. It featured shoving, near strangleholds, and prolonged aggression that spanned minutes. Stewart garnered another distinct 2-game ban following that event. This insight from the Locked On Hornets program frames exactly where this brawl fits in the wider picture of NBA conflicts. Stewart is not simply a man who ends up in bad spots. He is a guy who inflates those moments. He is a force who exits the sideline to inject himself into, for them. He is a man who, when common sense should be screaming to remain sitting and let the refs manage it all, decides to run 60 feet and start hurling haymakers. And that is the core of the Stewart issue. There are silent codes in the league about how deep these battles run. You push, you get chest to chest, you bark, and you let the zebras and peers build distance. You step off with a technical or a flagrant, then you drive on. Stewart declines to operate within that framework. He does not play fight, he brawls. And now he has done this, often enough that the association holds a record long enough to warrant whatever penalty they choose to pass on down. His boss JB. Bickerstaff backed Stewart following the match, claiming the Hornets stepped over the boundaries by rushing several bodies at Duren. Bickerstaff painted the reaction as solidarity, guarding a specific partner when the opposition escalates. Yet the league does not build in any exemptions for loyalty when an athlete deserts the sideline to join a scrap. Under association laws, vacating the seat zone during an active court dust-up brings an automatic 1-game minimum ban. That is the baseline. Considering Stewart's filed past, 2 games for the LeBron Rush, 3 contests for Eubanks, 2 matches for the Minnesota Chaos, plus extra tossings and flagrants, dotted in between. Experts are predicting anywhere from 7 to 10 games, with some pundits guessing as high as 20 or more. Stewart is 24 years old and already holds one of the deepest conduct sheets for on-court brutality in the modern game. The mystery regarding him is no longer if he will be banned. That is a guarantee. The query is whether the office finally chooses to make an exhibit out of him to bring down a verdict harsh enough to show that the rising trend has outcomes that rise in kind. Miles Bridges and the fallout. Miles Bridges threw hooks during the fight. He stormed at Jalen Duren from across the wood. He got into a prolonged physical tussle with Isaiah Stewart that featured swinging, grabbing, and a botched takedown effort. He was tossed and he is going to be banned. That section of the tale is simple. What shifted a massive chunk of public opinion against Bridges, and what mutated his part in this event from combatant to subject of heavy judgment, was what he elected to do after the scrap was done. Hours after the match closed, Bridges dropped a note on Instagram roasting Stewart. The tough guy was pulling hair. He wasn't trying to box fair. The jab was sharp and calculated. Bridges was calling out Stewart, a strong man widely viewed as one of the league's most rugged bullies. But leaning on hair pulling instead of scrapping clean, he was stating that Stewart's image as someone who was always poised to throw down did not fit what actually occurred when the fist started flying. The suggestion was plain. Stewart grabbed him by the braids because he could not manage him in a heads-up battle. Under typical conditions, that is standard post-game smack talk. Players roast each other after clashes constantly. It is part of the game. But Miles Bridges does not live under typical conditions. He lives under the burden of his own past. And that past made the Instagram remark hit very differently than he planned. In 2022, Bridges was booked for domestic violence. The facts that came from the suit were grim and chilling. He caught a 30-game ban from the league, one of the stiffest domestic violence-linked bans in sport history. The suit cast a massive, lasting cloud over his job. And each time Bridges is tied to any physical dust-up on or off the floor, that darkness gets pulled right back into view. It is unavoidable, and it is self-created. So when Bridges hopped on Instagram and mocked another guy for snatching hair during a scrap, the internet reacted with the sheer power of that history. The pushback was instantaneous, ruthless, and everywhere. Fans and pundits called out the twisted humor of a guy convicted of domestic violence, critiquing someone else's brawling mechanics. The remark did not make Bridges look hard or smart. It made him look blind to his own past, and it sparked a degree of judgment and disdain that a basic ejection could not have triggered. From a disciplinary perspective, Bridges risks a lighter suspension than Stewart because he did not leave the bench. He was an active player in the match when the scuffle started, but experts still predict 4 or more games for his part in running at Duran and tossing hands. His domestic violence record may figure into how the league gauges its ruling. Though NBA history typically splits on-court punishment from off-the-court conduct issues. The other 2 ballers involved, Jalen Duran and Moussa Diabate, see their own repercussions. Both act poised to accept 2 to 3 games each. Duran for the open hand smacked Diabate's face that acted as the spark for the whole chain reaction, and Diabate for his failure to get restrained the way. He broke loose from security and staff and rushed at Duran not once, but twice, stretching a confrontation that was on the brink of being finished.
There's his initial reaction to being hit in the face, which I think is a natural reaction to one's entire face being pushed.
That note from the Locked On Hornets podcast is vital because it points to how the league will likely distinguish penalties among the 4 tossed players. Diabate's response, while severe and prolonged, was a gut reaction to getting hit in the face. That is distinct in type from Stewart's decision to dash off the bench. And it is distinct from Bridges' choice to lunge at a player who was not even tied in the first foul sequence between Diabate and Duran. Every player's part in the escalation was unique. Each one made different moves at different times, and the league will judge each of those moves separately when assigning punishment. But the court of public opinion has squeezed everything into a single impossible query. Who was worse? That is a query without a clear answer. Because every person caught in that third quarter incident crossed a line. And crossing lines is what made this the tale it became. The bigger picture, history, the game, and what comes next. Pistons won the match 110-104. Cade Cunningham dropped a game-high 33 points on 12 for 27 shooting with 9 boards and 7 dimes. Duncan Robinson added 18 points as an effective bench spark. Jalen Duran had 15 points and was a major force in the lane before his tossing. On the Charlotte side, Brandon Miller scored 24 points, featuring 4 3-pointers, and LaMelo Ball added 20 points on 8 for 22 shooting, while fighting foul trouble throughout. Tobias Harris knocked down a clutch late jumper to stretch Detroit's lead when the Hornets were threatening a rally. Detroit controlled the interior, with 60 points in the paint compared to Charlotte's 26 and forced 21 turnovers that led to 23 points. The Hornets hit 40.4 from deep on 19 of 47 tries, but their failure to score inside and their ball control issues proved deadly. The outcome snapped Charlotte's 9-game winning streak, a run that had been among the most gripping storylines in the league at that stage in the season.
I'm never going to be pro fist fight, but emotions were like supercharged in this one.
The emotional heat extended way beyond the players engaged in the scrap. Hornets fans at the Spectrum Center reacted to the dust-up with an intensity that several reporters and pundits described as genuine, playoff-caliber vibe. When Jalen Duran walked off the floor toward the tunnel, clutching the front of his jersey, up to the stands and egging them on, The energy inside that arena teetered dangerously close to something that could not be controlled. The ghost of the malice at the Palace, the most infamous incident in NBA, history hung over the arena then. That 2004 clash between the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons at the Palace of Auburn Hills started with a hard foul and exploded into players fighting fans in the stands after a fan tossed a drink at Ron Artest. The fallout was catastrophic. Artest was suspended for the rest of the season, including playoffs, and total suspensions for all players topped 140 games, costing well over $1 million in fines. No one claims February 9th hit that chaotic level, yet the comparison surfaced in the dialogue almost instantly. And the reality that it surfaced in the dialogue at all exposes how tense things stood.
Are we about to do Malice at the Palace again? Are we about to see 40-game suspensions or rest of season suspensions?
That query posed in real time by somebody who was actually inside the building, seeing things develop captures the authentic dread that lingered in that instant. Since once Diabate slipped loose from security and wound up near the baseline crowd, once Duran was barking at the stands on his path to the locker, the margin between a grim brawl and an unfixable disaster was gauged not in minutes, but in seconds. All it would have needed was one bystander choosing to get mixed, one beer tossed, one shove swapped with a guy, and the altercation would have stepped into ground that penalties and levies cannot fix. Historically, the Pistons and Hornets do not hold a deep or bitter beef. Their total all-time season record is 68-66, favoring Detroit through 134 bouts with 0 postseason clashes in team history. Detroit has taken the last 4 contests involving the two squads, featuring a 1-12-86 rout in December 2025, past their last 20 dates spanning many seasons. The set is divided squarely at 10-10. There is no deep-seated beef here. There is no postseason past-driving hostility. This brawl was not the outcome of a feud. It was the outcome of specific players making specific choices in a match that spiraled past everyone's grip. As of February 11th, 2026, no formal bans have been declared by the NBA. The association is assessing all accessible film, network angles, leaked bits, fan cams, venue security tapes as part of a method that usually takes 1 to 2 days for multi-guy dust-ups, but can run longer when player records and massive video proof need to be weighed in. Coach Charles Lee might see a 1-game ban for his 4th quarter, tossing. Duran and Diabate are slated to get 2 to 3 games apiece. Bridges could get 4 or more. And Stewart, the guy who quit the pine, who chucked the most blows, who snagged the hair, and who has been through this ringer more times than any active baller in the game, is staring at the stiffest ban of the Consos bunch by a huge margin. The tape is out there, all of it. The network view, the leaked bits, fan clips, the Reddit posts, the TikToks with millions of hits, the Instagram reels, the YouTube highlights. Every jab, every hold, every dash across the floor has been caught from various spots, spread across every app, slowed down, zoomed in, frame grabbed, and argued by millions of folks. And that is basically why this scrap went huge. Not just cause it occurred. Scraps occur in the NBA. Guys get tossed. Penalties get handed down, life rolls on. This one went global because the tape kept exposing new layers. Since every time somebody figured they had seen the whole deal, another view popped, showing something the prior one missed. The hair pull, the bench dash, the tackle move, the blows landing. The video did not just capture a brawl. It spun the brawl into a saga that kept growing larger with every rewind. Thanks for viewing. Check out other links on the screen.